Just needs a. Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have a return to the cold relics of Kiddie Land. So, we're doing Kiddie Land, which is the second story of the Cold Relics series. They've got a whole website. You can go check it out. The Digigekko, who is the author, in quotations, Tyler, on the Cold Relics website. They also post their stories on creepypasta.wiki, so you can check them out there as well. But we'll be diving into this one. Get ready, guys. This is a bit of a... I just preface my rundown. I typed it up last night in a flurry to kind of get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see how many typos I have in this rundown.
That's okay. As long as you can read the correct words, that's all that matters.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, first off, I want to address, before we go into the rundown, actually, I want to address something that I actually really like about Cold Relic's website. They are categorized and formatted very well.
Nice.
They've got a blog section, an about stories, an about me, like the author, the stories themselves section, the theories about stories section, a timeline, and an art section. And under the stories, for each story, they have like a little kind of preview thing with like a bunch of like information about like that, and it's in all in chronological order. So for example, the second story, Kiddie Land, dates occurred in 1990 and 2008, and was posted in 2013. Author, our hero. It actually just gives they give the author of the characters of the stories. Like the last one that we did, Laser Tag, has the author as originally unknown, but reposted by our hero.
Okay.
And then location, Central Florida, and then it gives like a 1-sentence background, and then a 3-sentence summary of the story you're about to read, and then you can click and actually read the whole story from there. So, again, really well done formatting on a website. Let's see how that formatting translates in the story when we get into it.
Ruh-roh.
But going into the rundown. So, Nair, which is how I'm going to refer to our hero for most of the story, because we don't get an actual name, begins looking into this theme park he sparsely recalls, but begins obsessing over for several years. This is after seeing a post on a site by Kate, in quotes, a photographer who is following in her father's footsteps and chronicling all the little niche theme parks that pop up across the state of Florida. Over some time, Nair, Kate, and a Jack begin investigating this enigmatic theme park through varied degrees of research that they have all been conducting separately over years. Nair is a civil engineer and surveyor and has been narrowing down the list of possible sites that this theme park could be. So they kind of eventually get together and start kind of collaborating and kind of sharing their notes and whatnot, because they all have this weird shared memory that is not really distinct, but incredibly distinct. It's very contrasting. Apparently the park might also be tied to personal tragedies that they have all endured in childhood shortly after visiting the park. Such as for Jack, his grandparents died in a fire 2 days after he visited the park. Kate's sister, who had leukemia, didn't last more than a week after visiting Kiddie Land. And Nair was in a car accident that claimed his mother's life an hour after leaving the park. So they try to approach things logically, but then there is this disruption as Nair's father commits suicide. Apparently he never fully recovered from the car crash and the loss of his wife. Nair then also receives a very vivid dream the night after hearing that his father died, or the night of discovering his father's death, and continues to obsess over that dream. while sorting out affairs with his dad's like estate and that all pleasantness. Nair
Also,
can't
the dream you
Yes,
didn't mention the dream was like a visualization of the inside of the park.
Yeah, he like, and it's the first time that like any of them have gotten like a full like kind of like layout of the park.
Hmm.
And yeah, so he like starts like obsessing over that because he doesn't want to lose that because it's important, even though you know he's got to deal with this other real life tragedy that's happening, i.e. his dad's death.
Hmm.
So while sorting out the affairs of the funeral and such over the week that followed that, Nair can't get that park out of his head, and while he's at his old house, begins sketching out the map and drawing up the front of the theme park. And then his sister comes into the room while he's doing this and actually remarks about remembering the park all of a sudden. Like he had asked her previously, like he had asked his dad, and neither of them really had any kind of recollection of Kiddie Land. But suddenly, his sister, upon seeing a sketch of it, has memories. So we are then introduced to a fourth person in the circle of investigating group, who recalls being at the park when it was burned to the ground. He's very strange and insistent on meeting the group, and even like has an idea of like which road to look for the site of the remains of the park. This
And that's
kind of
because his family like only ever used one road ever.
Yes, yeah. He apparently his family only ever drove down that one like lane or that one set of roads while they traveled around Florida. This feeds into Nair's obsession, and he rallies the group. Some of which are at this point kind of hesitant, given circumstances like you just lost your father, but you're really obsessing over this theme park thing. Like some like what's up with that? And it's like, no, we gotta find it. Here, come on down to Florida, like to where we are, and we'll like all meet up and we'll search again. It's like, dude, we just got over that. We just went over there. Like we live really far away. We're not gonna pay for that. I'll pay for it. It's like, oh, okay there, Nair. Yeah, so he gets everybody like gathered up and charters a flight over the area. Mind you, a short flight. And we'll get into that in my notes. But they do spot, or specifically Tyler spots a clearing that looks like it could be the place along Route 40. So they immediately touch down again and then drive out to that location to see what they can find. And unfortunately, at first they don't really find much. It's just a bare cleared area. Like it looks like somebody had cleared out all like remains and debris and stuff like that, and are like building a parking lot or something. But Nair is insistent on staying until they do find something. And since he's the only guy, or since he's the guy who drove them all out there, everyone else is kind of stuck until he's satisfied. So it's at this point, Tyler actually finds a shed and the base of something big out in the woods nearby. And inside the shed, amongst crates and old barrels, they find this electronic device that is emitting a clicking, chirping sound. And it seems to be some kind of 60s or 1960s military terminal. All the input components are like pulled out of it and stuff, but like there's a little like green screen that's kind of like awaiting input. So the group starts looking at that, but Nair goes outside to try and find like a power source, and while he's outside searching around the shed, he begins getting strangely paranoid and like in a bout of madness rams the device with a barrel and destroys it. Kate and Jack, who have been watching the device or were like studying the device, don't seem very unperturbed at this point. They seem to be in some kind of like state, while Tyler actually does react to Nair, like wondering what's going on. And then Nair proceeds to receive the mother of all headaches, running in a panic out of the woods, like toward his car because he has aspirin there, like, and it's the only kind of relief he can think of. He gets out back into the clearing and has these strange visions of a park overlaying the clearing, and then passes out. Nair then wakes up in a hospital about 2 days later in his original hometown, the nearby town Ocala, and that's where like all this kind of stuff happened. The only people that are in the hospital room with him are his sister and Tyler, but Jack and Kate aren't there at all. And as he learns from Tyler, Kate and Jack don't exist as far as the investigation went. Like Tyler, like it seems like reality has shifted or changed for Nair, because it was just him and Tyler. There was no Kate or Jack looking into Kiddieland during any of their investigation stuff. So, and what's more, Tyler let slip, like, the reason he was acting strange, and like during their investigation, like periodically, Nair would notice that Tyler was looking at him strangely. The reason being was because he remembers seeing Nair at the park when it was burning, but not Nair the kid, like how he would be back then in 1993, but as Nair is now. And what's more is that he was smiling while it burned. So facing the fact that his reality has either changed or that his memories are incredibly suspect, Nair attempts to continue on with normal life. Then we get some years later, while checking some old photo albums, Nair sees a photo showing him, his child self, playing with Legos on like a Christmas or something like that. When and it appears that like because he was always kind of like I said earlier, he's a civil engineer, and even back then he loved Legos and loved to like build things. And it looks like in the photo, like as he's smiling for the camera, we get to see what he was building out of those Legos, and it appears to be a model of the theme park with scribbling on the brick like a little front face of it that says Kiddieland. So the fuck. Checking the site that Kate posted on, like the Tumblr site that he remembers her posting in the original iteration of his memories. She is still out there posting stuff about theme parks and asking about Kiddieland. So Nair decides to help contribute to that by adding this photo, and it sort of just ends there. After like I guess they're continuing he's kind of reconnecting with Jack and Kate is a wrong term, it seems like, but it's like he's starting again with the investigation, but this time he's actually contributing to the search with or a little bit with his own material, or some new photos that he has. And he also leaves the story with a Google Map image or a Google Map link of the site that they visited on Route 40, that shows that it is there, and it is now a parking lot for the national park, like the national woods and stuff that are in the area. So Finn, like end. That was Kiddieland. I don't think I missed too much more that was important. But again, if you want to read it, you can check it out at creepypasta.wiki or go to the Cold Relics website. So I guess on to everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions at this point. So I'm going to start with this one here. Why, when I look through all of my dad's photo albums, do I not see its sign anywhere? He would shoot anything, and always the front gates. Was this place even real? I scrolled through the replies as I tried to get a grasp on these forgotten memories that were trying to wriggle up to the surface. Most of the responses were useless as far as answers or similar experiences went, save for one, by a boy also our age. I'll have him go by Jack. Always a winner cover name. Okay, so the reason I read that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
the
like,
reason I read that. There's a reason I read that, and the reason is, I hate the transitioning of the story. I checked both the sources I read this from, like creepypasta.wiki and the Cold Relics website, and there is absolutely zero transitional formatting between characters. Except for quotations, which, okay, you can maybe get away with using quotations for certain things, but like, I was like, even while reading this, like, so that first bit I read, like, from like, why would, like, when the person's asking why can't I find it in my dad's albums and stuff like that, that's Kate. And it does end with a quotation, but then it immediately goes to somebody completely new. It goes to Nair. Like, where, like, I scrolled through the replies, and while I was reading the story, I had a couple of times where I hiccuped. Oh, okay, no, this is this is who's talking. This is a different person. Okay,
Yeah.
like, I hit that point where it's like, okay, we need to have like some kind of like the horizontal like cut line, or maybe some kind of different type of formatting than simply quotations, because it just, like, especially since you use quotations not just for Kate's stuff, but for when Jack is replying as well. So it's like, who the fuck is talking?
Yeah, I had the same note, but from earlier.
Yeah.
When it says, she posted, "Anyone remember Kiddie Land?" in quotations. Then, upon seeing the name of the place in dark recesses of my memories, blah 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 blah. And then it cuts down to the next line in quotes, saying, "I think I visited the place called Kiddie Land when I was young." But considering both Nair and her visited the place, I thought that was Nair continuing his thought as well.
Yep.
Because I didn't like, that could have been, because it's in quotes, it could have been Nair responding to her post.
Mhm.
Or just him thinking it, or whatever.
Like, I think a good way to have like gotten around this, especially if you don't want to use the horizontal line all the time, because that would be like basically a whole section. Although that would also still work, because the horizontal line would show that, like, okay, no, I'm reading a new thing, but also maybe like a different color for certain text that are a different character, or again, just having Kate in brackets next, like, to what to the paragraph that's that is Kate's words, Kate's comment, or Kate's writing.
Post.
Yeah, exactly. Kate's post.
Well, it could just be like, okay, the following is Kate's post, and then if he has to interject, put his thoughts in brackets.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
yeah.
if you want to keep it separated like the way it is, it would be, she posted, "Anyone remember Kaylan, blah 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 blah," and then when it jumps down to the next line, instead of just doing quotations, go, "The post continued, comma, in quotations, I think I visited a place called Kiddie Land," because that would tell you that this is still the post talking. Or
Yeah.
we're back to the post talking because we're not in Nair's thoughts anymore.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with that, like, yeah, because in this, it's well, because again, we get like Kate's, like, in quotes, we get Kate's stuff, and then we get a little blurb from Nair, and then we get in quotes again from Jack, and it's like, well, okay, you can't just use quotes for like every, like, you need to differentiate who's talking right now, like, in the quotes.
Yes.
So, yeah. That was one of my biggest beefs with, like, the formatting here. It's just like, it's really hard to differentiate who exactly was talking, even for me. Like, I'm pretty quick on the dot, I feel, when it comes to like deciphering who's talking on the fly.
On the dot, is that a thing?
Isn't that? I don't know.
I've heard quick on the draw.
That's the word.
I'm quick on the dot. As soon as I do an I dot it right away. You don't even notice. So fast.
God. Another one for the pile of weird metaphors that Review Cultist completely butchers.
Yeah, that needs to be a shirt too.
Bush meat. Just me with a cleaver, just cutting up metaphors and throwing them into a pile.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so that's the first issue I have with grammar and such in the story, is the formatting. The next one here, she had kept in light correspondence with Jack over the years, and despite working together, they apparently never heard from anyone else with recollections. So I could understand her skepticism, and I felt crappy that I hadn't said something 10 years ago. So I might be in the nitpick nook right now, but I did a quick fix for the end bit of here. So I could understand her skepticism, comma, and I felt crappy for not saying something 10 years earlier. I don't know why, but for some reason, 10 years ago really kind of bugged me while reading this story. Whenever it got brought up, it's like, I really felt like it should have been something like earlier or like prior or something. And then also, I also feel like to kind of fix the and problem, because I know we're going to have a really lengthy conjunction junction spoilies. The fact that like so I could understand her skepticism. In the story, it's a period, and then it cuts into a new sentence, and I felt crappy, blah, blah, blah. I feel like you could just I could understand her skepticism, comma, and just continue on the sentence. And it wouldn't even be too long. So kind of a mixed bag of like nitpick nook, and then like me also like kind of like poking my foot out of the nitpick nook. But I digress. On to the next one. None of ours were after our separate tragedies. So I feel like it should be none of our visits, or even none of our visits to the park, were after our separate tragedies.
Yeah, I stumbled on that too. Like it made me read it back, but I didn't put it down as an actual problem. Although I guess I should have because I stumbled over it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, at least I don't worry, I got you.
Yeah, apparently.
And then my next one here. Maybe it was simple being lonely that finally drove him to end everything. So I think it needs to be maybe it was simply being lonely that finally drove him to end everything. Just needs a Y instead of that E. Although that reading it's like simply lonely finally. It's a lot of E's. So it's kind of like in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on. It didn't even feel like a dream at all. I think you want it didn't even feel like a dream at all, not at all. And then my next one. Eventually, Tyler believed my amnesia excuse and summarized a reality that been lost to me. I kind of think it should be eventually Tyler believed my amnesia excuse and summarized a reality that's been lost to me.
Or that had been.
Or that had been, or that has been lost to me. Like, because it's like, yeah, I think any of those would really work.
Mm-hmm.
Just as is, it's just like that being lost to me. It's like, oh god, we got caveman speech.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We got caveman there, cave there. And on my last one here, I didn't know what say at first, and more cave nair. To which I think it should be, I didn't know what to say at first. So that's my grammar inquisitions. So I'm just going to go grab some popcorn because I've been told, according to my notes here, that Mikey, the E stands for evil, has a hell of a quote of a conjunction junction coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start with that, or do you have anything before that?
I don't have anything before that.
All right. So, and next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
And across all of that hot, muggy, flat land in Central Florida are locales that can defy all logic and reason. It was meant to attract fellow Floridians and their offbeat tales and experiences. It was written by a girl my age I will simply call Kate. And upon seeing the name of this place, some dark recess of my memories lit up. And sure, it was strange that this place seemed to be a memory that we had all forgotten and later remembered to some degree and struggled to clarify, but that's not uncommon for childhood recollection. But Kittyland stayed with me more persistently than any other recalled memory I've had. And up until now, I had only 2 steady memories of that entire year: Disney World and my mom's funeral. But luckily, there was also 2 unlabeled, undeveloped rolls of film in the box. But I did take away one thing from the images. It had been a rainy weekend. It was then that a smell hit me, accompanied by a visual. But in 2008, it resurfaced once more. It's a menial. It's as menial as you'd expect, and sometimes the drivers going past you as you work shoot glares. Probably because they just don't get what we're doing when we're out there staring at the landscape through our total stations like dorks. But at least I got to go somewhere new most days. And a part of me was figuring that this experience might be valuable for tracking down whatever remained of the enigmatic park. It must have been in the middle of nowhere, a true roadside attraction, almost too strange and non sequitur to exist. But I might have passed her by if it wasn't for a single post she had made around the beginning of her page's creation. And it was somewhat familiar, a fact that Kate had also picked up on, as evident by her comment on the image. And I felt crappy that I hadn't said something 10 years ago. It was nice just to connect with people who grew up within 100 miles of me. But they gave up several years ago because boredom had triumphed over intrigue. And while Kittyland hadn't taken over any of our lives, it was a powerful enough force to sometimes disrupt them. It was a strange new experience for me, but they both seemed pretty normal. And as a photographer, she carried her camera everywhere. It was something I rarely shared with people, but I was at the point when I wanted to search out any other possible connections. And I had found one. But I think Kate's story was the most tragic. But again, for whatever reason, her father never took any pictures of the place. And the idea that a backwoods park seemed involved, it changed our perception. But I knew we had all briefly entertained that very idea. It did, after all, sound like a quaint place, not much more than a permanently active mom-and-pop small-town Florida fairground. And there were people that managed to get inside parks all over the world that had been left to decay, many of them small and once independently run. But she knew that it wasn't the right time, and I saw everything. It didn't even feel like a dream at all. It felt like a real memory, either returning to me or somehow being born right as I was experiencing it. And then I remembered what had happened last night and where I had to be. It was as if I had seen the entirety of the small park in my head that morning through a series of flashes. It looked like something should logically go there, in that spot between the roller coaster and the pool, but I just couldn't think of anything. But just as I was thinking that maybe it was time to let go of Kittyland for good, she looked at my sketch and her eyes widened just a little. It's already easy to forget the chronological order of your own life. And as I threw more and more, even wilder explanations at myself, I settled on one idea that somehow felt entirely possible. It was a very different kind of memory. And furthermore, he thought he knew what road it was on or just off of. And I didn't think Jack appreciated his apparent fondness for fire, considering the nature of his memory trigger. But I went ahead and divulged my theory that the park wasn't even real, that it was a false memory that we all somehow had embedded into us, and it was activated when we suffered a personal disruption of childhood. But he was different. And what I asked the three to do next only emphasized my steady spiral down into obsession. It was a cool, clear day, and we'd be able to see for miles and miles. It was expensive, but I had some inheritance coming my way. It was just big enough for a small theme park. It was quiet and lonely out here, with nothing around but the faint sounds of nature in the thick layers of trees. It didn't look like they were putting a building of any sort out here. Kate assumed that it might be a parking lot later for park visitors. But as I was thinking about where to look next and got ready to go back to my car, Tyler shouted out to us. It was little more than chipped blue paint, cinder block, and an aluminum roof and door. It measured only about 5 inches, was built all the way into the cement wall behind it, and had no apparent inputs. It was as if the device was still broadcasting a signal that made my very memories feel vulnerable. I became afraid that I'd suddenly lose them or have them tampered with again. But they simply kept staring at the equipment even though it was broken, ignoring me entirely. And then I felt my head exploding. It was a 2-story facility with tinted windows and no lettering. It was still surrounded by trees, but there was a pathway leading to it. And nearby, on the cement foundation, was a metal radio tower that just barely stood taller than the forest's tree line. It was just like waking up on any other day without pain. It was like I had lost time, that some part of me was missing. But I wasn't convinced that he was free of tampering either, if he couldn't recall the shed. But regardless of what knotted, mangled version of personal history now existed in my head, something didn't add up about Jack, and to a greater extent, Kate. It was still there, along with that image of a park in Arkansas. But I wasn't my 6-year-old self, and yet I was glad to see it burn to the ground. But after listening to my description earlier of things that had never happened, he now had a distrust of his own past and told me not to dwell on it too much. But the plastic Lego blocks behind me reflected enough light to show up, at least partially. But I did have the most unbelievable story of my life, and that gave me a better place to start than last time. And one last thing. It's a parking lot now. Finn.
Dun dun. Yeah. So I got some comments while I was listening to that. Just two. It's Floridian. They are called Floridians, not Floridans. Floridians.
Floridians.
Yeah, you call
Sounds like an alien.
but so is Floridian. If you
Yeah, they both do.
But yeah, no, I have heard actually Floridian as a term for people from Florida. And the other one that came up while you were doing that is like permanent small town mom and pa Florida fairground is my high school bluegrass ska band.
Yeah, that does sound like a crappy band.
Yeah, yep. Hope y'all enjoyed the second rundown.
Pretty much. For those that don't know, the whole point of Mikey's It Stories and Conjunction Junctions are to highlight all of the sentences in a story that are starting with words that they should not be starting with, like conjunctions or its and such.
Yeah, it's generally not great to have like ands, buts, and its at the front of a story.
Yeah, butts don't belong on the front; they belong on the back.
Yeah, front.
Like that's just the way it is. Your butt's on
you
the
don't
back.
So... you don't want to be Emperor Screw from Spaceballs.
I don't remember him, but yes,
he was the main villain who, when he went to the teleporter, his head was on backwards.
Right.
So you could see his ass.
Hell yeah.
Why didn't anybody tell me my ass was so big? But anyway.
That's fun.
All right. So then, is that all your grammar acquisition there, Mikey?
Yep.
All right. And what a grammar acquisition it was. Gamer, you're up.
Now my go. Dad was a photographer who liked to take pictures of all the weird little theme parks and such that dot the interstates. Bracket. Can that be plural? Bracket. And highways. Why can't that be plural? Is there more than one interstate highway or not? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I did see that. I was like, I think it was just like they were questioning, can that be plural?
Why can't it though?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there only one interstate highway?
No, there's definitely not.
Then they can be plural.
Florida interstate.
Well, it says interstates and highways.
Yeah.
The interstate is a highway, right?
Yeah, there's definitely multiple interstates and highways in Florida.
Yeah, well, I think it's because they call it the interstate. Like, I took the interstate.
Oh, I've heard a lot of my American friends say, like, yeah, like, got to jump on the interstate. I was like, which one?
Doesn't matter, any of them.
Yeah. I think it's because they all connect, though, too. So
yeah.
But then again, so do highways.
All roads connect, though.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. All roads lead to All Roads Tavern. No, sorry, wrong podcast.
Anyways, moving on.
Yeah.
I didn't get my driver's license until after I graduated, and it was really only so I could get myself to college. During my first year, I began to feel confident in my driving ability. I took 2 separate trips to and back from Orlando and my old house in Ocala. One drive was on the internet.
Sorry.
One drive was on the interstate. The other longer one was when I took the back roads. I looked for billboards, old signs, and even made a few stops at dilapidated gas stations and rest stops where I looked through the oldest tourist brochures I could find. No references. So, what the hell references is he talking about at this point? Because it sounds like from the entirety of that statement, he just wanted to go back and see his old house. There was no talk of finding Kittyland yet in this story. It's just he's remembering a time back when in college he went back home. But he didn't say that he went back home for the purpose of finding Kittyland, just that he was going back home.
Okay, because it's clearly that it is an insinuation that he's looking for a reference of Kittyland, so it should.
By the time you get to the end of that long ass string of sentences I just read,
yeah, I think it needs. Then it needs to be clear. Like it needs to be like stated in there that he's looking for Kittyland.
Because at this point, I thought the whole thing was he went to Kittyland as a kid, bad things happened, forgot about it, and then he's only just remembering it now in the current timeline when he saw that post of Kate. But that's not the case, because apparently he went back looking for it again before that.
Yeah.
So, this whole section kind of confused the hell out of me.
That's fair. Yeah.
And speaking of things being confusing, this has probably only bugged me. But it really bugged me. With college assignments and social life to attend to, my quest for Kittyland fell further onto the back burner, sometimes to the point where I forgot all about it all over again. But in 2008, it resurfaced once more. So, my problem here is how specific the dates are being mentioned and everything, but there's nothing to correlate them to the point that saying that number means nothing in this situation, because I don't know when he was going and looking for Kittyland before. All I know at this point is when he went to Kittyland as a kid and this 2008 thing when it resurfaced again. So at this point, I started doing some math and listing out all the dates and trying to keep track of everything, just so I could freaking understand what's going on. So in Nair's childhood trip to Kittyland, it was 1990. And he was 6 years old. When he went back to try to find his old home was the first year of college. That's all we knew. And doing math on that, 1990 plus 12, which would make him 18 years old at 2002. So 2002, first year of college, he went and did that.
Yeah.
Then when did Nair read the forum post about Kate and asking about Kittyland? I don't know. Because that's sometime in between all that.
It did say that the first time he read that Tumblr post was 10 years from 2008.
Yes, I was getting to that, but it's not really super clear.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of with you on this.
Yeah, and then when did Nair try again to find his home? 2008. So that's 6 years after his first attempt. Then when did he become a surveyor? Sometime after college. He had Google Maps, so it's after 2005, but that's all I know. And then when did he actually exchange emails with Kate? That is 10 years after finding her initial posts. But it's not mentioned when that is, just that it's after the initial post, but it's not mentioned when he found the initial posts. In late 2008, he decided to meet Jack and Kate in person, which has to be after they exchanged emails.
Yeah. Because
so, based on all that, 2008, you said 10 years ago they exchanged emails, which means they exchanged emails in 1998, which means Nair was 14 when they exchanged emails online. Talk about Kittyland.
Yeah, it is. This story has a lot of complexity to it, and unfortunately, it not executed properly. Especially with timeline, because I had a lot of confusion. This story got a little kind of exhaustive as it went.
It's it jumps around through the different timelines so much, because there's Nair back when he went to Kittyland, then there's Kate's and Jack's when they went to Kittyland. So there's 3 timelines. There's when he went to start looking for Kittyland, and then it just there's so many timelines, it's hard to keep track of everything. And because some of them are very specific and it's telling you, and some of them aren't, it's making it really confusing. And I straight up had to do math to figure out things so I can get a rough idea in my head of when everything took place, and I still don't even have it all understood.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the I'm looking at the timeline website on or the timeline page on the Cold Relics website, and surprisingly, there's very scant. So there's 1990, our hero's direct experience with Kittyland, which he later recalls. 1993, the year that I, Tyler, visited Kittyland. And then 2007, 2009, during duration of the creepy toy forums transcribe. Okay, that's laser tag. 2008, our hero, myself, and Jack and Kate investigate Kittyland, and then that's where it basically stops. That's the timeline that we get for Kittyland. Yeah, it feels like there should be a little bit more like for all this like kind of time hopping, like narrative time hopping, not like actual like time travel, but like correlating timeline, so that it should be a little bit more in depth and a little bit more clear than what it is in the story.
Like, because these characters are bringing up past events constantly, you keep having to go back. If it was just like you learn about all the past events from all the characters and then you move forward, and then like when they introduce Tyler, you learn his past event and you go forward, that's fine. But it's just jumping around so much.
Yeah,
it's confusing for me.
No, I get you. Yeah, it's confusing.
And the way to fix that was either date everything or don't date everything, but at least connect everything to each other by making it all like fluid, and like the first words you're reading are the earliest things in the story. Or like when it does bring up something in the past, just say it was X years ago from now. So the only thing you have to keep track of is the current timeline, and then if stuff was before or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the long and short of my rant there.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of my Grammar in Yellow.
Okay, well, I mean that was kind of a mix between Grammar in Yellow and also Actual Thought, because it delves into like kind of like an issue of the story, like content rather than the grammar.
Sure.
But it's also formatting as well. Like so.
Yeah, that's why I put it up there.
Yeah.
If it was formatted in a different way, it may have bothered me less.
Fair. So my first thing, actually, just to kind of like maybe alleviate a little bit, or give you something to like look for, like a little like highlight for you, gamer, since you are a gamer. When I first saw Kittyland, I didn't realize until like this morning when I typed in Kittyland to get the creepypasta page up that Kittyland is also in Left 4 Dead 2 by Dark Carnival.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's the kiddie section of the Whispering Oaks amusement park in the Dark Carnival level of Left 4 Dead 2. And I as soon as I saw that was there, I was like, I remember hearing the one character Lewis, I think his name is, in Left 4 Dead 2. It's like, oh yeah, Kittyland. But I digress. Onto my actual thoughts. So I'm going to start with this one here. The main forum was the place where users posted their real-life strange stories that happened anywhere in Florida. Whether they lived here or were just visiting, emphasis was placed on the real aspect. But of course, you can say anything you want on the web. Yes. So just like the Reddit No Sleep, where the stories need to be realistic, in quotes, according to the guidelines.
Well, realistic and real are very different.
Yeah, that's I mean, okay.
Realistic would mean you could make a fictitious story up, but have it all function with real life rules and laws and lack of magic and such.
See, I think it's actually supposed to be that like they're supposed to be grounded in some in the real world. But yeah, I guess
I don't know how it's worded on that, but based on how you described it, that is two very different things.
Well, yeah. From what I've heard, I'm just saying it based off of like secondhand like kind of information. So take that with a grain of salt. I've been told I was like, oh yes, these are supposed to be real accounts, and then like you have stories like, oh, my father's been possessed by a butt demon.
Real guys.
Hey guys, can you help me out? Like yeah, like that kind of like that's the kind of the trope or the meme about Reddit No Sleep is like These are real accounts, guys. Now help me help my dad who's been possessed by a butt demon.
Well, wouldn't they just call those troll passes at that point because they're not abiding by the guidelines?
Except they treat some of those people do that in earnest. So
Damn.
yeah, so yeah, no, I was commenting it like, oh yeah, this supposed to be real stories, even though like you can bullshit on the internet. So I like how this. I do
think the mods would like banhammer that shit.
You'd think.
Anyways, that's not the story.
Yeah, exactly. It's not this story. It's that story.
Wow.
Oh man, that is a really obscure reference to our sister podcast.
And a nice plug.
Mm-hmm. One less die. Anyway, moving on. We got a lot to cover here. I got 6 pages. So what's weird is that if I concentrate, I can still get clear memories of most everything from the wiki-watchy mermaids to Dinosaur World. But this Kiddieland thing, not so much. It must have been incredibly lame, judging by its name alone. It was probably some sad little park that didn't leave much of an impression. So why am I thinking about it so much all of a sudden? Well, based on the fact that this story is about 17 to 18 pages long, I really hope that you find a reason for why you're recalling Kiddieland. This is my first comment of the story. Just like as I got to this point. Also, this seems like a good enough spot to put this. I do love the idea of abandoned theme parks for creepy stories and creepypastas. The idea of these like little places of fake thrills and leisure for kids that have fallen by the wayside and become haunted, not literally, but maybe figuratively, by nostalgia, lost, and melancholy. And the whole idea of like remembering of like a happier time and then like seeing that it's been twisted by time.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, just these fun places people visited with that were once shiny and chrome, but now the tracks are rusty on the roller coaster, and the colorful paint is peeling as nature attempts to reclaim the site it was built on. There's like a macabre beauty to the ruination of it. So the topic of this story, like as soon as we got into it, I was kind of already like hook, line, and sinker because it's a topic that I'm very interested into.
Yeah. Also for like Five Nights at Freddy's, and
exactly, yeah, it's
the reason why that took off because of how cool the aesthetic is.
Yeah, basically, people from our like age and like around our age group remember like Chuck E. Cheese places and like old like small roller coaster theme park stuff. So like we can kind of and we do like now that we're older, we kind of have like those memories are faded and much like some of these abandoned theme parks sort of thing. So it's like sort of a metaphor. It was metaphorical. Thank you, Taserface, for giving me that eternal quote.
Yeah, really.
Also, I did Google wiki-watchy and Disney World, or no, not Disney, Dinosaur World. So Wiki-Watchy Spring and Dinosaur World are real theme parks in Florida you can visit. Oh, not now because of the dark times, but you could.
The Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yeah.
That's the way the Game Grumps put it.
God damn it.
Because they get demonetized if they say it.
Gotcha. Well, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck the Backstreet Boys.
Yes. And that's another thing that I like about the story. And actually something kind of brings up from the previous quote I had. It is grounded in something real. Like a lot of the story, like a lot of the mundane stuff, like a lot of the setup and the prep work feel up before we get to like some of the weirder stuff. It all kind of feels very well researched, or at least the author like is writing what they know, like in terms of the mundane setting. Like they know Florida, they know to a degree surveying material, as we'll find out later in my notes. So yeah, I really appreciated that in the story of the how the writing was for the most part well researched for this, like to kind of get into the character. And then next one here. And sure, it was strange that this place seemed to be a memory that we had all forgotten and later remembered to some degree and struggled to clarify. But that's not uncommon for childhood recollections. We all have places, events, TV shows, movies, and other things stored away somewhere so fuzzily that we wonder if they actually existed or not. Yeah, like this pirate kids show with puppets. Though Mom keeps insisting that I was watching Static. Weird.
Very good imagination as a kid.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting a little bit of a Candle Cove vibe from this. Just the given the collective recollection of something nostalgic. It's not a slam against the story. With my silly little quote here aside, oh yeah, I totally remember this pirate show. That's literally an entire genre or subgenre of creepypasta and horror fiction. It's not even it's outside of creepypasta internet fiction. It's a whole thing of horror fiction. Because people like to remember nostalgia and also there's the kind of you are haunted by your past or you're haunted by the past. So that's a whole genre in of itself, being haunted by something you maybe remember but you're not quite sure. So yeah, it's definitely worth something worth exploring. And it's just I was getting vibes of the old Candle Cove story from this. And yeah. On to my next one here. I was sure now that this place was real, or at least had once been. Dad was never able to remember it, the few times I asked again. I didn't know if he even tried. After all, it was just hours later with him behind the wheel. ... The old scar on my side itched. 28 stitches. And this is regarding basically him and kind of bringing in and recollecting the car accident that summer that happened an hour after they visited Kiddie Land, supposedly, and where Nair's mom died. And to this, I'm just I wonder if the visiting of Kiddie Land has anything to do with this car accident you're bringing up. As soon as the car accident stuff gets introduced, that crossed my mind.
Yeah.
It would follow the theme of family trauma linked to a cold relics based object, based on the previous story that we had read, Laser Tag. But before we go into any more of that, we got this one here. It's as menial as you would expect, and sometimes the drivers going past. And sometimes the drivers going past you as you work shoot glares, probably because they just don't get what we're doing when we're out there staring at the landscape through our total stations like dorks. And I was like, total stations? What? And then I Googled it. I was like, oh shit, that's an actual term for surveying equipment. That's an actual piece of surveying equipment. That it's called total station. So I honestly thought it was
a weird word.
Yeah,
it was so weird that I assumed it was right.
Well, I just assumed it was a typo, and then I Googled it, and I discovered it was not. So I learned something today about surveying. And again, it's something I mentioned earlier about how this is kind of well researched. It's this is actually kind of competently researched for or at least maybe the author has had that job, kind of writing what you know, sort of thing.
I'm assuming that's the camera on a tripod situation.
It absolutely is. Yeah, it's that survey. Yeah. That's that viewfinder kind of thing they have. That you always see when you see those guys out in fields next to highways. And then there's this line. Soon the three of us were like old friends, catching up. We had many long nights together, three-waying in private chat rooms.
Oh, jeez.
God, phrasing. Oh, God.
I mean, I didn't go there, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's safe on this show that, my mind will go there because I live in a gutter.
That's fine. Someone's got to live there.
Yep.
It's for rent, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Next one here. Yes, here we go. And so on our second go around the nature trail, we began speaking a little more personally with each other, And that was when we learned of some ominous shared similar stories that cast the mystery in a darker light. That's an oxymoron. In a darker light.
Aha.
But
Yes.
sorry, that's not actually the rest of it. All of us had personal tragedies that happened around the time of our park visits, specifically shortly after we came to and left Kiddieland. So I look back at my comment about Kiddieland being tied to earlier mentioned a car accident. There it is. Well, kind of. It's a bit more complex the more you read, I guess, but it more or less kind of like confirmed my previous suspicion.
Yeah. It's not
As
complex.
I mean, there. The reason why I say it's more complex is because as we kept reading, it like, is it real? Is it not? Was it like was there actually even a Kiddieland, or was it like some weird government building that was there that was causing all this shit? Like, and maybe like they just happened to be passing by when they emitted the brain fuckling machine or something.
Regardless,
Which, yeah,
that location, whether it was real or not, did fuck with these 3 people.
that's
4
true.
people.
Yeah,
Or
and who
possibly
knows?
only 2
Maybe
people. I don't know.
yeah, it might have been other people too. Like it might have affected other families that just aren't on the internet and like popping up.
Mhm.
So, because it is also a secluded location, but we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, or I'm getting ahead of myself in my notes on that. So, moving on to my next quote and comments. They wanted lasting family bonding time. As Kate's sister had advanced leukemia, she was confined to a wheelchair, but Kate could recall that she still enjoyed the trip even more than she did. Somewhere along the way, before heading home, they must have gone to Kiddieland together. But again, for whatever reason, her father never took any pictures of the place. Kate's sister soon after experienced complications and died a week later in the hospice in hospice care. Her family was never the same. Okay, so I was going to comment about Kate's tragedy seeming like more unrelated than the other two. But then shortly after this, Kate herself points out that like during their discussion of oh man, this place is like I think Jack just blatantly says, oh, the place is cursed, it's causing these problems. And like they were all thinking that, but then Kate kind of rationalizes that like her sister's illness was an issue before they went to Kiddieland. So like I was going to comment about like how it's like, well, I mean like the fire thing happened like 2 days later, and then like the car accident was an hour later after their visit, and like it seemed like Katie's tragedy was kind of on it, like it was foreseen what was going to happen, so it's sort of like an outlier. But then again, Katie brings it up. There's like, oh, mine was kind of an outlier, so like it doesn't really hold up. And that's kind of something I like about this story, is that the characters do address loose threads or like plot holes that they come up. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense because like this thing, like, and this isn't the first time that this happened. Or this isn't the last time it happens. I think it happens later on in the story, where they address like certain things, like when what's it when Nair when Nair charters the flight and says that his dad died. Anyways, let's go look. I'm gonna drag you guys out to Florida again to look for this place. And Jack and Kate straight up just like, well, my condolences, but also, are you fucking nuts? Your family, your dad just died. We're not like,
Got more important shit to worry about. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they actually like call him on his bullshit there. It doesn't go anywhere, but at least it's addressed.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of really liked that the story actually has some self-awareness to that, because it's something that would get brought up in real conversation. And yeah, next one here. Oh yeah. So we had all fundamentally changed in our young lives, maybe grew up a little faster than most kids. And the idea that a backwoods park seemed involved, it changed our perception. So even given what I said earlier about Kate's tragedy and like kind of having this kind of not being fully like succinct and such. Again, I do like the direction this is going at this point in the story. This is what I'm commenting on. I do like the direction of like a theme park called Kiddie Land, effectively shortening childhood for visitors, is an interesting idea. And the way the story does it is really out there and weird and interesting. And it's not just simply this place is a cursed location. There might be something more like sinister and like government based on like to it as we find out. I do like that path or that direction in the narrative. And I'm gonna move on to the next one. You guys don't have anything like you'd want to like say like about my comments or anything, do you? Or
We'd be saying them if we did.
okay, fair enough.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. So I'm just guessing that you guys are in agreement, or you're just like, all right, let's just keep letting him talk.
Yes.
Great, I love it. Love that uncertainty in my life. Thanks.
It's a bit.
Okay.
I can only speak for myself, but yes, I agree.
Okay. Okay, so my next one here. All of our memories were hazy and scattered, so probably none of them were all too accurate. Even so, after hours at a restaurant table that we occupied right up near closing time, I had made the first known visual representation of the place, a simple sketch. And to this, and some of the other things that we get in the story, like the photos or like the other sketches we get, I kind of wish that we had gotten pictures that accompany this story, like not simply the tablet drawings that we get from the website, that I think are just more or less like title cards for the stories themselves. I think it would have been nice to actually have some photo scans of these sketches and maps that they do over the story. Now the thing is, now that I'm thinking about it, like as again by the ending, some of it is like not real according to reality that changes or fate, or like it may not have even happened the way he recalls it. So I guess it makes sense that those sketches aren't available. But still, I think there should have been some of these sketches that he did.
It would add to it a lot.
Yeah. And then my next one here. God, this is a doozy based on my comments. I kept mostly to myself and sort of drifted through the house, trying to recall the good times the three of us had. Not that there were many. On the last day of my visit, I went up to my old room and sketched out a more refined version of Kiddie Land before I forgot the dream entirely. Okay, so here's my another big gripe I have about this story, and it's the dream sequence that he receives after finding out that his dad died. And so I really feel like that dream sequence, the night after finding his dad had committed suicide, dealing with the suicide and the funeral within the following week, but also like still dwelling on this park abruptly throughout it, it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like as a reader, I still think the death is fine for the story, because of how rooted it is within the history of the narrative here. Like it's clear that like it's because it was drawing to a point based off of like the other lines that we get about the dad and how like this whole how his life had changed after 1990. I just feel like there needs to be a precedence, like that the whole death and the funeral needs to be taken more precedence due to the mood that it invokes. Like it just didn't seem like the dream sequence was really appropriate while you're also dealing with this, or while your character is also dealing with this. So like maybe and actually I kind of offer up an alternative to a dream. So to kind of maybe connect the death further to the to like this weird narrative that you have, or like the story itself. Maybe instead of a vivid dream, you have a memento that Nair finds in his house while going over his dad's effects. maybe his dad did in fact keep some photos or sketch out some things that he remembered from that day at the park, and kept them secret from Nair and the sister and such. Maybe revisiting it after his son asked him questions about Kiddieland is like about that time is actually what put him over the edge, to kind of ramp up the guilt of dredging up bad memories and stuff like that. Because I think it does have a line where like him and his like Nair and his sister both had like different types of like senses of guilt for what happened. And I think that was like to kind of insinuate that like maybe he shouldn't have like poked and prodded his dad about Kiddieland because of how close it was to the source of his depression.
Yeah.
But
Also, I'm
it's
pretty sure that like Nair did find rolls of film that his dad did not develop, and
Was
he
that his-
developed them, and it was pictures of that day.
was
It was,
that
I think,
him?
it was primarily pictures of him at like Disney World or some shit. But I
Okay.
could have swore there was also a picture of the entrance to Kiddieland.
Was that him,
Oh.
or was that? I guess that was him because like, but like, because I maybe I was getting confused by that from that it was Kate, but it does make sense that if it was Nair because so like maybe there is some more information, but yeah, like maybe there was a little bit more than to it than just those photos that he found earlier. Because I mean, like, yeah, parents hide things from their kids all the time.
Totally.
And not just in the most obvious places. Secrets and lies. It's the foundation for a good family household. Anyway, or like, yeah, if you want to keep this on the path of like, what was it real? Was it fake? Is it some sort of mimetic false memory thing that Nair like later theorizes? It could be that, yeah, like maybe he like goes while he's looking through his dad's effects and stuff like that. He finds like that his dad has actually was recently sketching something that is basically Kiddieland, and that's what he finds. Rather than him going into his room and just starts sketching out Kiddieland, so he doesn't lose this thing that he's been like dwelling on for a week while he's been dealing with his dad's like funeral plans. Like,
Well,
Okay.
the
yeah.
counterpoint.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
Mikey, as he's about to counterpoint.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, you have to realize that he's become obsessed with
yeah.
Kiddieland. So, in the character's mind, he's not as engaged with the real world as he should be.
Okay, I could. Yeah.
Exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because I was actually going to counter myself a little bit while you're bringing this up. Yeah, it could be that like basically like this is his way of like dealing with real life.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of he's sinking into the fantasy, to escape the reality, his dire reality.
And since we're at this point in the story with the dad's death, when I read this, I was thinking that he visited Kiddieland again before the death because of this line. I was able to visualize myself exploring a rotting Kiddieland, taking pictures, proving it was real. ... So basically, if you visualize it in your own mind and visit it, is that what can potentially trigger the curse?
Oh, so not even going there physically.
Oh.
If you have a accurate enough memory of the place, the like death aura that surrounds it still affects.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah,
yeah, like
that's a good point.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, because as we find out in the story, like Kiddieland isn't real, but it's a trigger of it's a trigger of memories of some kind, for possibly, but based off of some kind of like military program or something. something was going on with the military at the site that they go to that was brain fuckling people, like
I don't know if it
causing
straight
them
up
to
said
have
military or not.
it's like they say like, well, they find like when they find the shed, it's like clearly like 1960s military hardware or like technology.
Yeah, I don't know if
I
it's
mean,
military.
it
but
might
yeah.
not be specifically military. It's just like 1960s military is usually kind of go hand in hand with like dark projects. Look at MK Ultra. But yeah, so I think that maybe you might be on something there. But like I don't know, it just seemed like to me it just seemed like, and I didn't actually catch that like his obsession was starting this early. I kind of caught it a little bit later. But yeah, I think that his obsession. I think you're right. Like he's basically the reason why it seems so weird and kind of awkward that he's focusing on this Kittyland thing while he's dealing with his dad's death and such is probably maybe intentional because he's basically just sinking into his obsession. So, okay, I can get behind that.
In one way or another, Kittyland was responsible for his dad's death. Whether it was through the depression he's been dealing with ever since the accident, or because it's directly attacking him because of the death aura thing that the Kittyland has.
Yeah. Or the mimetic signal that it's giving off from that location, like to its subjects, I guess.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm gonna move on then. This is what basically when Tyler appears, it's like the number of Kittylanders had grown again, and our newest member was our youngest. I'll call him Tyler. And he claimed to have gone to the park in 1993. And I was like, oh, hey, it's the guy currently moderating Cold Relics site and also like kind of like setting things up on the site, or like basically who's been writing the stories. And then also, yeah, I think actually as an addendum to the laser tag game or laser tag story, it was not Tyler, it was our hero technically who's curating that story from the unknown author.
Yeah, because that was just another Nair story, so we didn't know.
Yeah. So moving on to my next one here. Yes, this is where things start escalating. So I guess I'm kind of recluse. This is Tyler talking, and I've been following Kate online for a few months. That probably sounds creepy. I was there when it was burning. It was in what had to be 1993. I would have been 5. My only memories are of it being on fire. People were screaming. They were on fire too, even the kids. And like as I read, once I got to that part, I was like, that escalated quickly.
A little bit.
Just kind of abruptly just drop that revelation down, Tyler. And then like I think he goes on later, he's like, anyway, so I think we should meet up and hang out. He's like, wow, that kind of escalated. We went from like, trying to remember these stories. Like, yeah, I was there in 1993. I was 5. I remember it burning, and people were screaming. I think they were on fire too, even the kids. Anyway, we should look into this, right? It was like,
You forgot the one glaring thing that he mentioned, but
Oh.
he was happy it was happening. He said,
yeah, that's true. Yes, he was also happy it was happening. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the next point of
Red
escalation
flags on that guy.
Yeah, there's definitely some red flags from Tyler. He's a strange duck. Moving on to the next one of escalation here. A week later, during the early January doldrums, our group met at a small airstrip in the morning, and then I was like, airstrip? It was a cool, clear day, and we'd be able to see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles. Anyway, sorry. Knowing that it was now or never on finding any remnant of at all of Kittyland, I had decided to go all out and hire a pilot to fly us through the middle of Florida in a small plane, or at least the length of State Road 40. So, yeah, my first reaction, that also escalated pretty quickly. Also, how much is a plane flight like that? like, glad you're wasting your dad's inheritance. if you got any kind of money from that at all, I hope your sister's share is being saved for your niece. Sorry. It's just it is kind of it's showing like the obsession that he is delving into, where he's just like he wants to find this out, so he's willing to like pay any cost to try and get information he needs.
I don't think it's expensive as you think, because he's just basically going on a guided flying tour thing. It's not like he bought an airplane and learned how to fly.
I did Google. I did a quick Google search of Florida like charter flights, like short charter flights and everything, like flight tours and stuff like that, which you can do apparently. Like they're apparently very numerous in Florida.
Yeah, they just take up an assessment.
Yeah, I from the sounds of it, you can chart one anywhere between like starting with anywhere between like $100 to $500 per group.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
So, but like when I first heard about oh yeah, we just chartered a flight to go over this strip. It's like, man, you're really just diving into like the obsession of this whole thing.
That's the whole point, though.
I understand. Yeah, I get it. It's just I guess I was just like I was shocked for some reason by how fast the downward spiral into obsession was going. And speaking of the obsession, here's my next quote. Here it was when they're actually at the site, like on the ground, after they've driven away from the airport to the location. Every 15 minutes, either Kate or Jack asked if we could leave now. I asked for another extension each time, and in any case, we had only taken my car, so they would have to wait until I was satisfied. Wow. And then, again, this is like another part of the spiral of obsession that's going on from Nair at this point in the story. And I'm just like, I'd be concerned if I was Kate or Jack at this point. Like, it's like, we barely know this guy, and like, why did we get into one car to come out here?
We've known him for like at least a couple of years.
A couple of years online. Like, people are I mean, I'm not like slamming anybody like who has online friends, because I have tons of online friends.
Mm-hmm.
And people that I've talked to in person as well, like from like when I go down to Gen Con every year, again before the dark times. So it just like, I don't know, just that kind of like that. I guess maybe that that silly thing of just like, why, like, this guy's acting a lot more like squiggy than usual. Did we make we've made a horrible mistake?
I mean, yeah.
It's like, oh shit, why did it's like, yeah, it's like that sort of thing. All right, he's the only one with the car. We've made a horrible mistake.
I would agree with you more if this was their very first meeting in real life.
Oh god, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like if they didn't have that nice like kind of kosher and like familial like meetup at a Denny's or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then go hiking for a couple of hours while talking, like that would have, if they hadn't had that, I would be a little, I guess I would be a little bit more even more squigged out about the situation for them.
Yes, for sure. However, still squiggage is necessary.
Yeah, it's like whatever. I've driven you guys like from like point A to point B, like back in the day, and we'd go through like back roads because I like driving down like spirally like wooded like roads and stuff like that. And I remember one of our friends comments like, this is the perfect place for somebody to like get like killed and like dumped. And I was like, and I just like looked at him like with a creepy smile on. I was like, yes. In joking, he's still around. We swear.
The last time you saw him?
No.
Never saw him ever again for reasons.
Yeah. Or like I remember actually a similar thing. Like we were down in Toronto, same guy actually, and we had to find a route back down into the subways, and we found this like lonely, like nobody was around, like for like a half a block. And we went inside this building where like there was an escalator down to the subway systems down below. And as we were taking it, and we're just quietly like descending down the escalator, like, and like as our heads were like popping away out of view from like the street and such, I said, and they were never seen again. And I remember him saying, "It's like, shut up." Yeah, so I guess it's really just my dark sense of humor kicking in with this part. It's like, I'm the only one with the keys, assholes. We're staying here till I'm satisfied. And then we get to this part, and this is actually kind of where I'm lining up with Gamer about the timeline shit. And like, so this is my issue with the timeline stuff. So I didn't know what we should be looking for, or if this was even the right spot. Still, we hunted for a bit of everything: foundations, bricks, buried toys, trees growing around an old fence or lamppost. We searched for old garbage that would have survived, like soda lids, plastic toys, or metal ride remnants, such as springs and screws. We scoured the nearby trees for toppled signs and kicked dirt away to maybe reveal ticket stubs or maps. If there ever was a small theme park out here, there should have been some lingering evidence of it. And to that, I was just commenting, it's like, really? Like, as Tyler said, it was burned to the ground in 1993, and you're currently searching the grounds of the supposed site in 2008, according to the website's timeline.
Yep.
That's 15 years. That is 15 years in Florida. The muggy, hot, wet, damp grounds of Florida that would disintegrate any kind of paper trail that was left. Any kind of paper.
What would actually, like all that paper stub stuff that he's talking about, it burned to the ground. Fire.
Exactly. Even if it didn't burn to the ground, if there was any remnants of it left, like after the burn, like after the ashes were still remnant, the soggy earth and the swamplands of Florida would definitely have nature would definitely have destroyed them by then.
Yeah.
And also, there were signs that the whole place had been cleared by human intervention fairly recently. So yeah, it's not as far fetched. Again, this is just his. I'm just kind of in denial about his obsession, I guess. But like, yeah, he's like, it's his obsession of like, there has to be something here. It's like, no, there doesn't, man. It's been 15 years. A lot of shit can change in 15 years on a location.
In regards to like the foundations and shit, though, someone would have to like dig that shit up and take it out.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's
like if there's foundations set up for like roller coasters and bumper cars and shit like that, that stuff should still be there, at least in partial.
If it wasn't removed, but I mean, like because as it find out, like it's kind of been flattened for, and I think they even comment pretty early that it's probably being flattened or like being cleared for like parking lot or something. So like that kind of stuff would get removed so that they could pour down the asphalt.
Yeah,
for the parking lot. So again, 15 years of both nature and human interaction or intervention would definitely have scoured this place of any proof. At least the proof that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Or that he listed above. So and then the next thing here, with Kate and Jack's interest rekindled, we worked together to pry the door open and step inside. So this was like when they discovered like the shed and stuff like that after like hours of like not finding anything. And honestly, my interest was also kind of rekindled at this point. And I didn't realize it until we got to this point. I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of like, this was kind of dragging on a little bit. And then something finally actually fucking happened. Like there was a moment in this story while I was reading, it was like, is this just going to be like an investigation that leads to nowhere?
Like they never ever find anything.
Like, yeah, is this gonna fucking blue balls me? like in terms of like the like a mystery. And no, like we do actually get some really interesting, I guess, not conclusion, but like we get some kind of like payoff for what is going on, even if it does ask more questions than answers. So, and next one here. Yeah, so this is when he's like, yeah, he couldn't explain it, but I was starting to feel a deep primal fear similar to what I had experienced moments after the accident. It was as if the device was still broadcasting a signal that made my very memories feel vulnerable. I became afraid that I'd suddenly lose them or have them tampered with again. I was then desperate to end an obsession that had grown steadily for over a decade. I never found the power source for the shed, so I did the only thing that made sense. I took one of the empty metal barrels that we had tossed out and charged in like a madman. I smashed the transmitter first, and with every ounce of my strength, ran the barrel into the compartment. So it's like, oh yeah, I did the most logical thing. I rolled my sand check, and I passed, but I still took one sand loss. So I did the most reasonable thing, and tried to destroy the source of my madness. And yeah, it was at this point where I realized, okay, so this is like some kind of machine that is transmitting and brain fuckling people with a signal of some kind. Like
That's what he's assuming, anyways.
Yeah, that's kind of what we have as like a working theory here. So I guess my Candle Cove comment earlier was a little bit more in line than I thought, at least given some people's like theories about what Candle Cove was. Which is that like Candle Cove like might have been some kind of like strange like experiment that like affected like countless people through like a broadcast, or through a signal. Like they all like have this recollection of this thing, but they were actually just looking at static. Well, in the static there might have been some kind of a signal that that was giving them all the same image, like subliminal messaging kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
And next thing here is when shit goes completely crazy. After he blows up that or like not blows up, after he destroys the terminal, he gets that major headache, and then he goes out into the clearing to try and like escape, try and get his aspirin from his car, and then he gets out of the tree line, and there was a rip in space, moving like a flag on a windy day, all throughout the area. I could see fragments of what looked like another world, another time. A part of me knew by instinct that it was all in my head, but I still couldn't convince myself that it wasn't real. I really like the way it describes like him seeing this vision, like of like this wavering vision kind of like in fragments, right?
Yeah.
Like these strips of like basically these strips of reality kind of being overlaid his actual reality. I really enjoy that imagery. It's also really like I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And then he blacks out and wakes up with a popsicle stick in his mouth in the at the hospital.
As one does.
And the next thing here on my comments, speaking about the hospital and waking up, as we spoke over the course of an hour, I began to feel that something was off. It was like I had lost time, that some part of me was missing. And like again, to me, I was just like commenting here. It's like, I mean, you did lose 2 days. It's like,
well, yeah,
it feels like I lost some time. It's like, yeah, you did, buddy. We are getting to the end of my notes. I swear, guys.
Sure we are.
Yeah. Over time, I came to terms with that I had somehow screwed up my memory after going to that site, which had affected me in a way that it hadn't for Tyler. But I was convinced that he was, but I wasn't convinced that he was free of tampering either. If he could recall the shed, I didn't know, or if he couldn't recall the shed, I don't. Hang on, I gotta start that over. Sorry. But I wasn't convinced that he was free of tampering either if he couldn't recall the shed. I didn't know what had actually happened, and I don't think I ever will. So, based on what we actually find out about with regards to the shed and stuff like that, my guess for like what's going on is either memories got tampered with via like a signal, and either Kate and Jack never actually existed. Like they for some reason it's just another part of like the memory kind of feedback or whatever, or like kind of like implanted memories of like part of the investigation thing, or that the government came in after he blacked out and like took away Kate and Jack, and like covered up the whole thing, and like Tyler is either in on that, like he's like a what's the word for like an agent?
Agent of some kind.
Yeah, he's like a sleeper agent kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows what's going on, or like Nair, he was also just taken, but like and kind of given like a different type of like covering up. Like he still remembers, like maybe the government for some reason like covered it up in a way that like they remember still looking for Kiddie Land, but they removed Jack and Kate for some reason. Or my secondary theory, by damaging the machine. Actually, I guess this is going to be a slight tangent. By damaging the machine, he electrocuted himself, causing him to have some kind of weird brain issues that made him completely forget what was going on. Or more fantastically, Nair activated a tear in reality that phased him into an alternate timeline where Kate and Jack didn't exist in their investigations preliminary. Perhaps the machine wasn't a brain scrambler so much as some kind of dimensional research that the government was working on. I'm still kind of that's kind of like I was just kind of trying to come up with an idea of what the fuck is going on by the end of the story. Which I guess is kind of a good thing and a bad thing to the story, because it allows you to have a bunch of like come up with like your own theories of what the fuck happened, but it can also be kind of unsatisfying to a degree. So the theory I'm kind of siding with is that it was some kind of like it was a memory scrambler and government cover up stuff.
So you're going tinfoil hat situation.
Yeah, I'm going with the more of the government conspiracy angle. And maybe Tyler isn't in on it, but he's like for some reason he wasn't removed from the site like the other two were. Although that doesn't actually fix the rest of the ending, because like the other he goes back to the Tumblr site and it exists, but none of his interactions are there. So like either the government like deleted his information, like his correspondence like thoroughly, which is really hard for the internet, or yeah, he phased through to another timeline where his investigation is different. God, my head hurts. And that's a great segue to my next quote and my final quote for the story. So this is when Tyler like talks to him about like his memory and like his vision and stuff. It's like, he stared at me the way he did earlier because he remembered me from his dream. As everything burned, I stood in the center of the park smiling. But I wasn't my 6-year-old self. I was an adult, just as I was now. He had grown up wondering about my identity, or by the identity of that man, and seeing me in person only brought up more questions. And God does that. Fuck. This is like Lost or Erie, Indiana bullshit going on. Like, fuck. Like, it's really the story is really playing on the what is reality existential like horror nonsense. And I would like that. I would genuinely love that, like through and through. My only problem is due to the length of the story and the continuity kind of complexity that they try to do, but kind of half-assedly do with like the timeline and stuff like that. It's just super confusing. And then after I finished like reading that and got to the very end, like, oh, by the way, the site exists. Here's proof of it on Google Maps or on Google Maps. It's a parking lot now, and I'm just like, okay, this is less. Okay, maybe this isn't so much Lost or Erie, Indiana. This is just David Lynch like cerebral bullshit. It's like I don't have to explain shit. Like I just wrote this thing for you to like wonder what the fuck you just read. Like to question your own reality. And I was just like, fuck. That's what I left. That's how I left this story when I finished reading it. I was just like left with like, fuck. So that was my actual thoughts. Jesus Christ, it's gonna be a long episode. I apologize. Mike D stands for evil. Your actual thoughts.
All right. So, we might as well start with the end because you were talking about it.
You know what?
Um,
It's Lynchian enough, starting from the end with the beginning. Yeah.
yeah. So my theory is that as a child, he actually created Kittyland.
Yeah.
And because of the whole Lego.
Yeah. Sorry,
So-
that's part of the ending of the story that kind of really like fucked me up as well. Like where I was like, wait, so he created a Lego version of Kittyland when he was like 6, and then but it exists in reality. What the fuck is going on?
Well, it's like this. If you just okay, when I was a kid, Disneyland was a thing. I could
Yeah.
make Disneyland with Legos if I want to.
Yeah. No, I got
Like,
that.
it doesn't mean I made Disneyland.
No, I get where actually I do see where Mikey's going. I also see where you're going. It's like, yeah, like I get that he can make a Lego thing, but the fact that he finds a photo of himself making the Lego version of Kittyland, and like that getting dropped at the end of this is just kind of like, I don't need, like, here's one extra thread of like bizarreness that I'm gonna just toss in for shit. Hope you enjoyed reading this fucked up story. But yeah,
Well, I saw that as basically after the events of going to Kittyland and stuff. Him as a kid, he still remembers what the sign looked like, so he just made it.
Sorry, I'm a dummy. I thought, yeah, no, okay, I could, maybe that's the case. Like he did that Kittyland thing after going to Kittyland. I assumed it was before, but
It could have been before too, because like on the trips, he could have been passing by Kittyland and saw the entrance and just remembered it.
maybe.
No.
So he's like, I want to go to Kittyland someday, Dad. Look, I made it out of Legos. Like, okay, son.
Well-
I'll go to Kittyland. I'm sure nothing bad will happen.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
But yeah, no, sorry, Mikey. What do you got?
Yeah. Well, based on the Lego, like Kittyland could have been his own version of a theme park because of his aspirations to become an
engineer.
architect, engineer. Yeah. So, what if he created Kittyland as a child and somehow made it real?
God,
So your imagination landed it into like existence.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need to share this with you guys. So my niece, the niece cultist, last year or the year before, really got into this movie called Wonder Park, which is basically this premise, where like a kid who's like obsessed with like theme parks and like plays, like makes up a theme park with her mom, like as she's as she's a kid, and then as she gets slightly older, her mom is like has to go to like a hospital because she's like possibly terminally ill or something. It's very kind of vague of what happens to her, like what her mom has, but it's bad, like causes like some trauma with the girl, and she kind of like abandons Wonder Park, like this like whole big like setup that she's built with her mom like over the years. And then like as she's really smart and like with mathematics and engineering for a kid. So she's going to this like science park that she gets like kind of rooted in, and on the way there she ends up like escaping because she wants to go help her dad, and goes through the woods and ends up stumbling into Wonder Park. And it's like kind of a if it was treated more creepily and like as a horror story, it would basically be a creepypasta. Like it's basically
there
like
is what you designed.
Yeah, like the park is basically her, like she realizes that she created all of it through imagination, and it exists in this weird magical space. Is somewhere in somewhere in the woods between her house and this like and the summer camp thing. So,
or the government has been keeping close tabs on her. Like,
yes,
that's a great idea. We'll just make that.
Exactly. Yes, but yeah, it's surprisingly like competent and fun movie. But like, yeah, again, like if I wanted to horrify it, it would not be hard to turn it into a creepypasta.
No, not at all.
And honestly, it has like very similar kind of things to like the theory that we're kind of going off here is like where he made Kittyland, and possibly made it real through the power of belief. and false memory. So yeah, honestly, that is something I kind of wanted the story to go with. Like when I first started reading, it's like, oh, like he goes to like they find this place that doesn't exist, except it does because they made it because of their childhood. But then we got kind of weird device in the middle of the woods that near the spot, and it apparently brain fuckles people or screws up with your memory.
Or it's just a part of his mind that he doesn't realize is there. So he's trying to find a part of himself and his obsession, and he's making these connections with people, but not actually making the connections with them because he's already crazy.
Oh fuck! So it's a psychological horror. Turns out it wasn't. He hasn't been in that hospital bed for 2 days. He's been in that hospital bed for 2 years. He's been in a coma.
That's why he's like, I feel like I've lost more days than 2.
Fuck! It's like, God damn it! Literally doing the it was all a dream, like psychological horror. It's been Silent Hill the whole time, guys. It was all just a metaphor for his psychoses. Fuck. Again, that's very David Lynch. Like that's where what I was coming at for. Where I was like, by the end of the story, I was just like, the fuck did I just read? Like I was seriously like mentally exhausted after reading the story. God damn it, Mikey. It does make a little bit of sense, though.
Yes. All right. So continuing onward. Let's sort of start with the shed.
Okay.
So they get to the clearing.
Yeah.
But it's revealed that this isn't actually the clearing where Kittyland was, because in their searching, it's not until they follow Tyler, because it says, we followed his distant voice until we caught up to him deep in the woods.
Yeah.
He had found a lonely utility shed.
Oh my god, I just realized something too. So again, like I could understand. Again, it's Florida. The vegetation there grows really fast, and shit grows really fast, especially after something burns. So they found the clearing they found, and that they thought was actually like the perimeter of Kittyland. That was actually just the old parking lot for Kittyland. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, no.
I think it would be funny. It's like, yeah, it's like they're scouring this whole this whole perimeter. Is like, we can't find anything. There should be something here. It's like, no, you idiots. This is the old parking lot for the theme park. That's actually like the forest that's beyond, because the forest grew over it in 15 years.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, continuing on, more about this shed.
Yes, back to the shed.
So, after some quick visual measurements, I could tell that it was lined up to the center of the dirt square, the same spot on my Kittyland sketch that I couldn't map out. So he lined it up perfectly with a map that didn't have anything filled in that spot.
Yep.
He's gone mad.
Yep. No, I'm with you. I was like, okay.
But you don't understand? It's clear as day. Like the whole time he's been thinking about the layout of it, and he can remember the entire layout of it except for this place in the middle. And then looking at this shed that they found and looking around the surroundings of it, if he overlays the image of the map that he designed in his head onto the place, that sits exactly in the spot that he can't remember what's there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they're in the middle of deep in the forest.
Yeah.
But
there are no
in the middle of
landmarks.
this clearing. In the quote, you said that they said that they're in the middle of a clearing.
Yeah. Well, he could tell it lined up to the center of the dirt square, the same spot on my Kittyland sketch that I couldn't
Dirt
map
square,
out.
as in the clearing that they're in. So, like, they were in a clearing, and then through the forest, there was basically another clearing where Kittyland actually was. That's what I assumed. Like, they weren't actually at the right spot; they were just at some other spot that was nearby.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. It gets really convoluted by the end of the story to me.
Mhm.
Like I'm gonna be honest. I was pretty confused by the end of the story.
So, yeah. Well, to me, it just seems like he was all like, "Yeah, I got this map with nothing on it, and hey, look, there's a shed. Let me put that in the spot that has nothing on it."
Oh, okay.
There
I
we
see what you mean.
go.
It's like, haha, I filled in the blank. I did it.
He did, though. Like, I don't know why I understand this so clearly and you guys don't.
I don't
Either
know,
I am
man.
insane or you guys are insane.
Well,
Insane in the
I think my
brain.
point is it wasn't on his map, and yet
But there was a
seeing
spot.
it,
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, there's a shed. It clearly goes on this map." And bam, we found Kittyland, guys. All right,
Yeah,
good job.
I think
Time to leave.
I do think that, like, so you could either take it that, like, oh, he's like, he was right the whole time. He, again, this is kind of one of those interpretation things. I think it's like he found it, like he got the spot. Like, you can take it that as that, or you could take it as, like, no, he's gone insane. He's just like connecting dots that don't exist.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying now. You're saying that just because he found a shed in the middle of a clearing, that has to be Kittyland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Just
grasping
because,
at straws.
for sure. But that
Yeah.
being said, that is more of a connection than he's had the entire time.
That is true. But it would be funny if like that was actually the case. Like, no, he's just insane. He's just desperately searching for proof that he's right, and that this wasn't all a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my next actual thought here is that I would have been happier if the story didn't blatantly say that he was obsessed, because we sort of get that just by reading it.
I mean, you say that, but I mean, you're definitely welcome to your opinion on that. Like, but like, to me, I think I was fine with it, because honestly, I didn't realize just how obsessed he was going until like I read something and then it just clicked, and I was like, oh. And then it went on to say that like he had become obsessed. I was like, okay, thank you for that clarification. Now I know like how to react to this story. To me, I found it helpful.
I'm pretty sure in my own reading of this, I'd already come to the conclusion that he was obsessed before it said that he was being obsessive.
Yeah, see, there was up until I realized that he was obsessive. I just thought that this was like escalating, like some stories tend to do, like some of the creepypastas that we've done in the past. Like, it's where they kind of start jumping the shark pretty heavy, or they start like just escalating to try and keep things going. And it's like, okay, no, this actually makes. And then when it was brought up, I was like, oh, that he's become obsessed. I was like, oh, that actually makes a whole lot more sense now. Maybe that's just because I'm dumb and didn't catch that. At least for this story, but because you like you said, you caught it like pretty early on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then back to the shed.
Always, all roads lead to the shed.
Every few seconds, a faint chirp-like beep came from the back, from some place buried under the forgotten equipment. Get out of there! It's a bomb! We've triggered something!
Oh no! Yeah, no, that yep. it's a bomb.
Nice.
and then Nair, who is played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, slightly smoking, looks up and sees Tyler or Jake and Kate or Jack and Kate up in a tree, in a palm tree, and Jack's just like, 2 days to retirement. Damn. And then
Yes.
to reference Last Action Hero.
The best movie.
Oh God.
Yeah. All right. And then this, for me, I had trouble visualizing the exact size of the shed. Even though it says that the windowless interior was not much bigger than a walk-in closet, but without the walking space.
Yeah, what the
So it's not a
Okay.
walk-in closet. It's just a closet.
No, because the reason why there's not a lot of walking space is because there's all those crates and barrels. So
okay. So it's the
that's-
size of a walk-in
yeah.
closet, but it's full of shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
See,
'cause
I had
it's
I had the same fucking issue with this description right until now.
Yeah.
Where I realized, oh, it says walk-in closet. Okay, I can visualize. Like, I know walk-in closets are usually pretty like deep and big, but for some reason, I kept picturing a closet. It's like closet space. It's like, how the fuck do you store all these fucking crates and barrels then in this closet space? God damn it!
Yeah.
Oh God!
I had a pretty clear visual personally, but that's me.
Yeah. Well, I did
Yeah.
it too. I had to like kind of just like, all right, ignore the closet quip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, make it as big as it needs to be, as opposed
Yeah.
to hanging on the closet word.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Dun, 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 dun. And then the next quote here. Kate tossed out one last empty barrel that had been stacked in the corner, and then there it was, a dented, ugly 1960s-era cabinet that looked like a fuse box and had 4 steady green lights with one blinking amber that lit up when the box let out its digitized chirp, just as it had been doing tirelessly for decades, if not longer. So, fun thing about 1960s fuse boxes, they don't have any lights.
Okay, but
Right.
it looks like a 1960s fuse box, but with these extra additions onto it. It's a modified version. It's a descriptor.
1960s.
Hmm?
It's super tech 1960s.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like it's
but-
fringe science is I think what we're getting at here.
Yeah, well, and if it was in fact from the 1960s, those light bulbs would have been burned out by now.
Yeah, and like I thought you were also gonna you're going to focus on the fact that it says digitized chirp. For
Well, that too.
1960s.
Yes.
And I was gonna fight you on that one. It's like, well, okay, it's a descriptor for that thing, that sound.
Why can't it make noises?
It can. It just digitized. Like that's it. Not the correct term for that because
Oh, I see what you're saying.
because it's from the 1960s and digital stuff didn't really exist in the 1960s
I
outside
think
of
it
like
just means like a robotic chirp noise.
it could have just said that. And that would have been
Mechanical chirp noise, yeah.
mechanized chirping sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Vacuum tubes everywhere.
Yeah. And then when I first read about the small green phosphor monitor, computer monitor, I was like, those are old and big and clunky. And again, we're still in this closet. But then it says it was in the wall, which makes the wall even thicker.
Yeah. So it's actually like the inside the wall is probably where all the like the gadgety stuff is. Because like aesthetics, military aesthetics and like making things like all simple and what have you, or covering up like paneling and such.
So it was made in the 1960s, but it's from the government based on the cultists' assumptions on the
that
tech
is my
of this,
that is
which
my
means that it's using like LEDs and stuff like that and modern tech behind it.
I mean,
Because
I'm not
the
even going
government
back.
has
Like,
that technology long before we do.
I mean, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of like because I'm thinking back actually from the Captain America Winter Soldier when they go to the villains they go to that bunker where
Yeah.
where Captain America first got his his stuff and in the modern day, and they find I think his name's Dr. Zemo or whatever. He's been preserved artificially as an intelligence in like this massive room where all these these old like 40s and 50s computers are active and working.
Mhm.
Like and there's a single screen, like a small green screen, like the one that's kind of described here, that he's able to kind of like emulate a face onto. That's immediate. That's honestly, that's exactly where my mind went. Was that guy's computer room?
Yeah.
Except just for the terminal, not like the whole room expansed out. Maybe that's underneath the shed.
Hmm.
That screen's just the keypad just to open up the floor.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually an elevator that goes down
Mhm.
into a site.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a Kingston situation.
Yeah. Somebody left the elevator up.
God damn it. Yeah, that's why all those like barrels and like stuff, they meant to like get rid of them, but or bring them down, but like they never got around to it.
Hmm. All right. So my next thought here is based on the link at the end.
Okay.
So you know how we get the link to the parking lot?
Yes.
Well, I just happened to look up the historical satellite data.
Holy shit. Okay.
And basically, based on the satellite data, which only goes back to 1985.
Only 1985.
From 1985 to 2008, there is no clearing. It's just forest. And then the first instance of that clearing is in 2010.
Interesting. And this story was posted in 2013. Almost like this is a fictional piece of work.
Yeah.
Where memory is suspect.
Yeah. And basically, in 2011, it was still a square. And then in 2013, that's when it's officially a parking lot based on satellite imagery.
Interesting. God.
I mean, it doesn't strip say that they went there at 2008 because the times are not very clear.
Yeah. I think honestly, like the timeline stuff, like I feel like if you didn't even have the timeline thing, if you left it pretty obscure and just like used like this, like I didn't it's been 10 years since I first found the Tumblr site or something like that, like, but didn't give like specifics of when you went to Kiddieland. I went to Kiddieland when I was 6. I'm now like in college years. Like if you went pretty vague with it, I think you'd be safe. Otherwise, you need to go really in on like timeline data.
That's what I said in my grammar. You either need to go all in or all out with the timeline stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, or you could also say like maybe this isn't like a time thing. Maybe he just phased in into a new reality. Maybe our reality, it was there was nothing there, but in his reality, there was something there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
I do love how you went into like found historical satellite data.
That is great.
that is pretty awesome.
On the extra mile as
Where'd
always.
you find that?
Google Earth.
Oh, really? Okay. That's a little bit of a question about the panopticon going on here with like that Google Earth has satellite data that goes back that far, but okay.
Well, it's sort of a grainier image, but yeah, you can tell that it's just a forest. There's no square.
That's what they want you to think, man. I mean, actually, the other thing is like, again, there could. So here's the other thing. Like, it could still be that there was something there, but remember, like, the way that it's described is that like there's that shed in the woods, and a satellite tower that just poked out of the trees. So that could have actually just been all that was there, in reality, and
Yeah.
people just thought that there was, because of the signal that was being broadcast out to like the local area. That's just what people psychologically thought was there, was a theme park called Kiddie Land.
And over the span of time, someone happened to buy the lot that's next to the shed and just put a parking lot there.
Well,
Unrelated.
I think I know, or again, it could be the government covering up some shit. So they got rid of the shed. They got rid of the radio tower. They basically
Didn't,
covered
though.
up the
It's
shed.
there.
They didn't quite get the shed properly, but like that's because they got their comeuppance on that, because 4 kids or 420 somethings.
420 blaze it.
Yeah, so off on that. It's the middle of the summer at
fuck,
this
that hurts
point.
saying that. Please continue.
But yeah, they're like 420 something, like young adults discovered the shed, like the last remnant of it. Is like, oh shit, we need to like cover this up. Okay, so they clear out the shed completely, and then it's like, all right, so we're just gonna make a parking lot here out of the clearing that we had made. And we're just gonna use this for people to like go out into the woods for like the state park sort of thing. So like that's their cover up, is they turned it into a parking lot area for a state park, like kind of hide it in plain sight.
The shed wasn't even there. It was elsewhere.
It was deeper in the woods
Yeah.
from that site though. Like that's the entryway into that part of the woods.
Hmm.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. Like, yeah, they covering it up by just putting a government funded state national park.
Or hiding it by
park lot.
encouraging civilians to park there and use the area.
Exactly, because they've covered up the stuff that's in the woods. They don't need to, like, they've cut up shop.
Did they?
I thought so. By the end of the story,
When?
it seems like they've closed up shop.
They never said anything about that.
Yeah, he went back to the site, and the it looked like somebody had gone in and cleared the area.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. You're right. I forgot about that.
So yeah, I think it honestly, my government cover up conspiracy, my tinfoil hat is still on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Sorry, Mikey, we keep. Yeah, what do you got next?
That's all right. That's the end of my actual thoughts.
Okay. Gamer, what do you got
My go.
left? Wait, me go? What? Don't take my brain. Sorry.
Aha.
It's a
Yes.
terrible.
No.
No,
It's fine. That's what we do here. We make terrible jokes. So my first note that I wrote down is basically saying that the narrator of this, I'm assuming, is the same one who set up the laser tag story to be told.
yes.
He straight up references, is it?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I used Nair, but it's technically his name or his moniker on the website, like Cold
Our
Storage,
Hero.
is Our Hero. Yeah.
Yes, I know. So I guess all these stories are going to be told to us by this character, even though
nope.
this one is like so personal to him. I guess the other ones won't be.
So I think he's got another story, but then the rest of them are basically brought in by Tyler, because Tyler kind of takes up the mantle of the website.
Okay.
It's based on what I gleaned from the about page. Our Hero started the website, and then Tyler kind of like took over at some point.
Okay. And I would say that's weird that we're learning about all the thoughts and past and stuff about this character that we don't even know the name of. But like Nair Aderman is a thing for a reason. Like characters are named Nair all the time, or not named rather at all.
It's a trope in creepypasta and horror fiction in general. It's just having an unspecified narrator character.
Yeah. And we know more about him than every other character in the entire story.
Exactly.
Except his name.
Yep. Yeah,
Except
we get
the
some
very
really
first
personal
thing that you
about...
learn about anyone.
Hi,
I'm Gamer. What's your name?
Yeah. Or you know what's really? It's like no, he's got a name. It's his first name's Hour, and his last name's Hero.
Sure it is. I mean, there's people out there named Apple, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Moving on. I realized that even if we manage to go on most of the good rides in between the showers, in regards to them being in the past in that Disneyland and it being raining, they would have seen our disappointment and given us one less stop on the way home, a last ditch effort to correct a nearly ruined vacation. It was then that the smell hit me, accompanied by a visual. I could see a food stand with an old man handing me a hot dog. So this is like actually kind of a grammar situation, actually, now that I think about it.
Okay.
But this thing with the old man handing him a hot dog, is this Disney World still, or is this Kiddieland now?
I think what's happening here is like as he's thinking back on the day that like went up to Kiddieland, he started getting basically like very vivid memory, like to the point where he could smell and taste what he had that day. Like he could smell the rain evaporating in the sun. He could smell the hot dog he was being given by a vendor at Kiddieland. I think it's like
It doesn't say it's from Kiddieland, though, and that's my question.
I kind of took it as Kiddieland, but I guess it could be like Disneyland, or it maybe needs to be more clearly stated that like this was some kind of like strange like visceral vision he had of Kiddieland in that instance.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it being Kiddieland. It's just this is the first real visual that he gets of Kiddieland in this whole story, and it's just kind of like it's skimmed over, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah.
It's so there and gone.
It's something that a lot of writers do, where they just give us, and I'm sure that you've picked at it a couple of times in stories that we've done in the past, where they try to be, not to sound like a douche, but they try to be artistic and pretentious by like giving like little scant details, but just kind of like, oh, well, you need to read between the lines for the rest of it. Like they try to people like, because like people don't want to just be like, some people get tired of just writing like the thing, like something so plainly, like, so they want to like be a little bit more poetic with it, or try like experimenting with their writing, and that's kind of where this kind of comes from. But I think for people, for like that was about to sound really bad, like for people like you, no, I did not mean it that way. I did not mean it that way. But I mean, like for people that like just aren't going to get that, like sometimes you need to be a little bit more clear on that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. The weirdest thing for me, though, is how obsessed Nair is about this whole thing, and the very first thing he just doesn't give a shit about. Like, this would be groundbreaking for him. Like, he should have sketched the dude's face down, and like,
I think at this point he's still in denial about it, about his obsession. So it's like, no,
I mean, this whole thing is written down like it's a journal of shit that already happened. So at the start of the writing of this, he's already insane.
Yeah, but it's slow. It's not like he's insane, like 100% the same level of insanity. It's building up. So like maybe this was just at a point where like he was able to like shrug off the insanity a little bit, and kind of like it's no big thing. Like
it was just glossed over too much in my opinion, but
fair.
I'll move on from there.
Okay.
They're going to be moving on quite a bit, actually, to when he smashes the transponder with a barrel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so he went from like his first like memories of Kiddieland, and then
straight to the last one. And the quote is, and then I felt my head exploding. Okay, so the story's being told us by a ghost, it seems. Cool.
Yeah.
His head exploded.
Oh God, yep.
Surprised no one went there.
There's a thought, I was like, you know what? Gamers got my back for that. Walked away.
Yeah, no problem. Wait, right after that, he passes out. And he wakes up in bed and all that. And then we kind of go through all the different rapid fire revelations that he's getting. Where at first it's like, so Kate and Jack aren't a thing. Tyler doesn't know them. But Tyler seems to know Nair more than he did before in the previous rating, because he was acting like they were old friends, right, at that point?
Like basically what I think happened was that like in this iteration of reality, instead of like Nair meeting Jack and Kate and doing like having a couple of years of interaction and like investigation in this, it was just Tyler and Nair that had that interaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, I will continue.
Sorry.
So yeah, basically that's what's happening there. But without thinking about this like he jumped into a parallel dimension, if you think about this just in straight like mundane situation where he went through all this stuff, but Tyler doesn't know about Kate and Jack, is this just like a Fight Club situation where Kate and Jack were just in Nair's head?
Oh God,
never real. And this is kind of explained as well, because when he attacked the transmitter, only Tyler reacted to him doing that. Kate and Jack just kept looking around for shit. They didn't flinch to him smashing the barrel into it.
Shit.
It's like they weren't even there.
Yeah. And I had another theory, like actually that just kind of popped up. So like time is very fluid and weird and very like different when you're in your unconscious. So maybe that 2 days while he was in bed, like it was sort of like a mix of amnesia and just like he dreamed up what he had thought of like the previous iteration, and just completely like, and those fabricated memories that he had while he was in that coma after he clearly electrocuted himself from ramming the barrel into the terminal, the metal barrel, I might add, into the terminal.
Oh, that's true.
When he was in that coma for like 2 days, that's when he like these fabricated memories that he came up with in his unconscious basically overrided his actual memories of like his investigation with Tyler. Like, so basically
together.
Yeah, because I mean, I think have we all had like that kind of not like this kind of horrible thing, but like where like you wake up from a dream that you thought was real, like was like because it was so like mundane and real, but then like you realize like when you wake up, it's like it wasn't.
Yes, the past couple of days actually.
For real.
No. I don't remember what they were. I just remember waking up and be like, "Oh, fuck, that was a dream." What the hell?
Yeah, I hate that. So especially like I hate mundane. The nightmare ones are the worst because it's like working at an old dead end job and just like and then waking up, it's like, oh, thank Christ, I don't work there anymore. But like feeling like that, or feeling like something like again like having some kind of a wound in a dream, like something like really bad, like an amputation, and then waking up is like, oh, thank God, my arm's back.
Wow.
I've had some pretty nasty mundane nightmares.
You call that mundane? My level of mundane is like I was dreaming and everything. I thought it was real. I was just like, playing Warframe with the guys, and like, oh, I leveled up my necromech to level 40. I did all the forming with them. Cool. And then I wake up, and then it's what? My necromech is still level 30. What the hell? I thought I leveled it all the way.
I say mundane as in like there's not like a big purple dragon saying, "Hi there, you called me."
Oh, okay,
Owen.
True. Yeah.
Like in the scene.
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat your soul.
I feel like we missed an opportunity to say, "Who are you? Who is this gamer in yellow that joined our podcast?"
Oh no!
Never know.
Because he's been having these dreams for 2 days.
Oh no!
Yeah, I haven't been here at all. All these recordings that I've been on, just
don't make me remove your track.
How dare you?
Oh man, can you imagine like if I just released this episode without your track at all? So it just sounds like we're just talking to each other, like me and Mike, you're just talking to each other as if like you're not there, or as if you're there but no one else could hear it. It's just like, what's going on?
You just have like this weird shared insanity going on.
If that wouldn't be such a big fuck you to a listener, I would totally like release a first verse like that first, and then like a couple hours later release the actual version.
Oh, nice. Yeah, wait till there's a certain number of views and then release it again.
I don't know if I could do that. Like, I don't think I think we'd lose people.
Maybe.
Like, we've already this episode. I feel like we've definitely I feel like we have definitely separated the wheat from the chaff in terms of our listeners, with how long this one has been going and how like kind of convoluted we've been doing. Like we had like 2 rundowns in this episode.
Yeah.
Like we've
It's fine,
definitely,
I honestly don't
like,
have that many notes, so I'll be done quite soon.
thank God. Yeah, I'm just saying we've definitely. I think we've definitely weeded out some people that were just like casually listening. It's like not our diehard fans,
Maybe.
if we have any.
I don't know about that. But regardless,
Yes.
moving on. So with all that Fight Club situation out of the way, Tyler is shown Kate's post as Nair just looks it up and finds it, but there's like no responses by him on it. So then at that point, I'm like, okay, so now it's a Groundhog Day situation.
Okay. Yeah.
He wakes up and now he's restarting the day, like restarting the whole investigation, which he straight up says, at least this time around, I'll have more knowledge or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, he's like this iteration. It's like, and now that I hear that again, like I'm kind of reminded by how Everyman Hybrid ended, where it ended on a new cycle. Like the whole premise of like that Slender vlog is that like they discover as they go through the mystery of the Slenderman stuff and that they are one iteration of a cycle that's been going on since like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
And like they were trying to break the cycle, and then the cycle renewed by the end. So it's like yeah, it's like he's trapped in a loop, basically.
Mm-hmm. Then my only other note is just the fact that I like the Google Maps link at the end. It's like a nice little bit of immersion that's added into it. Yeah,
the only bit like again like
the whole thing has been pretty immersive, honestly.
Oh no,
there hasn't been too many things where it pulls you out.
Yeah, I was just exhausted by the end after reading.
Fair.
So, but like I just meant like from earlier when I said like I kind of wish there had been some more like sketches or some kind of like photo, like maybe if we'd gotten a photo of a little kid with like Lego blocks in the background that showed like had that maybe.
Yeah.
That might have been really cool for like an immersion thing. But again, yeah, the Google link isn't bad either.
Mm-hmm. But I guess like the whole like bringing up all of the different drawings and stuff, you kind of have to change a little bit the way that the creepypasta is written rather, because it's kind of written like half journally, not really. If it's straight up like a journal, then yeah, you would be putting in all those, but it's sort of not as well currently.
Yeah, it's sort of a curated like account of what happened. And so it's like it's a journal, but it's also like kind of more of a this is the series of events that happened, and like I'm writing them down.
I don't know the reason that the narrator is putting this on the internet, however.
The reason why is because they started like they found that laser tag story, and then they started this cold relic site because basically they've stumbled upon a bunch of like old weird like possibly like old anachronistic technologies from like the Cold War era that like were given to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he's found these accounts and sort of built up this little mythos of Cold War relics that were aimed toward children in some varying degree. So that's why Cold Relics is the series.
So it's like him finding laser tag is what started the whole process of him remembering about Kiddie Land.
Exactly, yeah. Like it kind of got him on the path of like finding that of like remembering that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's all I got for notes. So, on to final thoughts.
Okay. Mine's quite short after that because, okay, I'm not gonna lie. The story was a bit of a roller coaster for me.
Amusement park.
Oh shit, you're right. That was unintentional, I swear. There's definitely some issues with this story that I think need to be refined. In like the timeline needs to either be vague or super specific, like Gamer brought up. I'm still a little iffy about the dream sequence kind of muddling in with the funeral situation. I think that funeral situation should have been tackled a little bit more differently. This story's got a lot of big brain, high concept idea behind it of like, again, like what is reality, kind of existential threat, like what exactly happened? Like, is it just like false memory stuff that was implanted because of a government experiment? Was it a phase to another reality? Was any of it real? Sort of thing. And again, it is a piece of fiction. Like, I'm not saying like, is anything of it real? Like, oh, like, did this actually happen? I know this didn't actually happen, but in the confines of the lore of the in fiction world, did anything of this actually happen?
Yeah, did it actually happen to the character or not?
Exactly. So I was just kind of left exhausted as a reader by the end. It felt like I just sat through Lost, or a Lost-like episode of Erie, Indiana, as directed by David Lynch. Just that like cerebral sort of like, what the fuck did I just read sort of situation. And I'm glad that we kind of were able to talk about it like as in our like amidst our like comments and stuff like that. I'm glad we were able to kind of work things in our discussion here. I still like and that's the thing. I still like a lot of the story. Like a lot of the stuff in the story is really fun and really good. There's just some issues I had that kind of made it sort of gave it some ups and downs for me. So because of that, I'll actually partially recommend it. Because there was some good in this. It was just kind of convoluted in terms of its execution. So, Mikey, D stands for evil.
Okay. So let's see. There's a sort of a slow build up, waiting for something to happen. And then the shed happened.
Yeah, that's honestly, yeah. Whatever, you just nailed it for me. Like that, I was like, "Where's this going?" And then the shed showed up.
Yeah.
And then Tyler found the shed.
Yeah. So my overall feeling for this is that I'm only going to give it a partial recommendation because once the shed shows up, it just throws so much stuff at you that you have to sift through it and figure out what exactly is going on.
Mm-hmm. And talk to your friends for about 3 hours.
Yeah.
about what happened.
And my current theory is that Nar had
Wait, what? Nar?
or, yeah, Nair. Yeah, Nair.
It's Nare. Yeah, Nar.
Nair. Anyway, so Nair has been suffering from psychosis or something his entire life. His friend is actually Tyler, and Tyler tried to help with the Kittyland obsession by saying, "Oh, it's burnt down. There's nothing to think about," type thing. So that helps for the short term, but then the obsession comes back and he starts hallucinating Kate and Jack.
Yeah.
And all of this. And then at the end, we get the hospital bed with Tyler there giving us like, there was no Kate and Jack when we went on that airplane flight. And it's just so much that you makes you wonder like how much of it is real and how much of it isn't. And
yeah,
it just
yeah. So like through Nair's insanity on this, he's talking to Tyler, be like, "No, Tyler, there's two people that believe me too. One of them is Kate, and one of them is Jack. They're good friends of mine, and they'll come with me." But then they go, and then there's no one there with them. He's just imagining people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
because he wants confirmation that other people believe him.
Yeah, no, exactly. I also kind of like the idea of this theory because, I think it all stemmed from the car accident that happened when he was 6. Like, and we get how it affected his dad. To a lesser degree, we kind of get how it affects his sister. Not really.
Yeah.
But this is definitely how it affected how it affects Nair. Like this is how how the trauma affected Nair.
Yeah.
Was this?
Yeah. And Kittyland is his coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Because he becomes super obsessed with Kittyland when his dad dies.
Yeah. 100%. I think we might have cracked it, at least to a degree.
Pretty much.
So so partial recommendation though?
Yeah.
Just yeah. All right. And gamer?
For me, it was kind of a rough start, and then I'll pair it Cultist a little bit. Where both of you kind of pretty much nothing happens until the shed. Until shed happens.
Yeah.
Until the shed hits the fan.
And like some of that wasn't a bad thing. Like because like you do need to have a buildup of investigation, but like there was a point by the end, like right up before the shed showed up, I was like, if this story ends with them finding nothing, I'm going to be very like because I almost was like, are they just going to like not find anything at all, and this has all been for naught?
In a way, I'd almost like prefer that because it'd be more like a real life account where it's like, no, there's nothing actually there, you know.
I would too, but the fact that it wouldn't make sense for this series of stories, like because this is part of a like out of fiction, like out of story. This is a series of stories about Cold War tech that is stumbled onto with given to children essentially, or or geared toward children for some sadistic reason. So yeah, it would be really out of theme, I think, for it to be in this series of stories to have that ending. Although it would be a very interesting ending if it was a standalone creepypasta.
Yeah. But in regards to like what actually happened by the end, because we all had so many theories what happened, it's so vague that it's kind of annoying. Like anything could happen. Like for all we know, Nair's the only one there. And his buddy named Tyler, his last name's probably Tyler Durden, isn't actually real either. And he just has 3 people in his head.
Or worse, aliens. Sleep paralysis, aliens.
Yeah, you didn't bring those up. Of course, those are real.
Gotta bring them back.
He woke up from a sleep. It happened.
Gotta separate that wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, overall, I don't know if I would honestly recommend this one. Just because it felt like you're just going through this whole story, not really understanding what happened, and then the ending is like, it's like you get to a decision section in a video game where there's like 10 decisions. You pick a decision, and all the decisions just roll the credits. Like there's no.
Actually, to be fair, you know what's funny? You know what this is? This is like a JRPG similar to like Nier or
I haven't played it.
I know, because that director is basically like a Japanese David Lynch, where like he has like 15 different endings to a game, and and not that like any of them are insignificant, like or like bad or good endings, but like he has literally made a career out of making games based on certain on the alternate ending of a completely different series, like Nier Automata, or I think Nier is actually a spin-off game to a Fantasy Dragoon series that the guy worked on in the late 90s, but Nier has nothing to do with that series at all. Like it's just like kind of like a post-apocalyptic, like alternate, like modern era timeline. And then Nier Automata is just is an ending from that game. Like, yeah, it's again like this is the kind of ending where it's like a talk piece more than anything.
And personally, I'd rather know what I just read. You know?
Yeah. No, I get you.
Granted,
It is going to annoy a lot of people. It is going to annoy a certain type of person.
Like me reading this, I'm in a situation where I'm reading this for the purpose of having a conversation with my friends about it. So it is good fodder for that. However, for me to just sit down and want to read and enjoy a story, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea.
No, that's and 100%. Like that's honestly one of the reasons I love having you on the show is because of that dynamic of like opinion, like that difference of opinion on this. So
yeah, I just wish it was clear as to what was going on. There's way too much. There were so many twists. It twists itself in half, basically.
Yeah. And what is your what's like if you had to give a theory, like had to come up with like have a theory to like have a theory to it. What's your theory on this?
I mean, it straight up says that, like, they don't know Kate, but Kate's a thing, and she also knows about it. So it had to have been a different dimension that they went into, or some shit. Because like, he saw the folding stuff. Well, it's either that, or it's just he's Well, he couldn't have just imagined Kate and imagined that he knew about her blog post, because he just
Yeah.
found it immediately now. So it had to have been he jumped to a different dimension. There's no other way.
But he might have seen the blog post and imagined the correspondence with Kate.
That's true, because he did say,
Yeah.
"I wish I didn't wait 10 years to talk to her."
Yeah, and
Or
now
whatever.
he's coming back like he's going to contribute to this time around, but this time he has proof in this iteration is what he kind of like leaves off with.
True.
'Cause
So
he-
yeah, it could be either one.
So the I'm glad I wanted to get that for a reason. So like partial recommendation from me, partial recommendation from Mikey, and not recommendation personally from Gamer.
Hmm.
And we all have different theory. My working theory is that it's government conspiracy, like cover up stuff. They were doing mind games in the 60s and 70s and whatnot, and or not even in the 60s and 70s. They were doing mind games in the 90s when all this shit happened. We have Fight Club theory for Mikey, and we have the alternate timeline slip for Gamer.
I don't know why
so-
they had a device out in the middle of woods that can do that, but yeah.
I mean, it's government conspiracy bullshit.
I mean, I guess I've read about weirder things in the woods, like staircases.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
We still don't know what those are.
No.
So if you also have a theory on this, or after reading the story, and you're still with us, first off, bravo! I hope
You're a
my
trooper.
clapping is transmitting. Leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also send us messages on Twitter and talk to us about this. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, without that W because his name is very long. And I'm at Review Cultist. You could also send us an email. Go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things on the internet. If you want to just talk to us, like comment about an episode and let us know how we're doing and your theories on something we discussed, by all means, let us know. And if you'd like to help support the show financially, we recommend that you go to Al Dente Rigor Mortis on Patreon and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. Thank you to our patrons that are helping support the show. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you as well, because without your listenership, well, it would be like talking into the void or having false memories about talking into the void, or slipping into another dimension and talking into the void. And this isn't Warframe, so anyway, yeah. Please, for the love of God, do not want to go into the void. And thank you for writing these stories out there, because if you weren't, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about for 3 hours. And I don't say that like I'm laughing, but I'm not saying that in a crass moment. I honestly thank you for giving us material to read and enjoy and discuss for hours on end. So it really means a lot. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.
I'm giving it a go.
Do you want to try that again?
I have a mouthful of nuts.
You're gonna love my nuts.
Yeah, you're gonna love these.
Yeah, do you want to
Yeah,
try
I
that
wasn't
take
ready.
again? It's okay.
No, just roll it.
No. I insist.
Okay, that's good. Alright. I'm good.
I'm putting this in the outro. Like, yeah, do your take, and then I'm gonna take the original take and just toss it out to the end of the recording.